Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of my chaos cosplay crafts. So, I left you guys off with a very frightening TikTok. I think it's time we address that TikTok. So, if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about and you're new here, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. You looked at the thumbnail, you know what this video is about. If you aren't new here and you watched my last Chaos Crafts cosplay video, you know that I left off with a TikTok of a horrifying wig that I bought for $9.99 at my local Goodwill. If you didn't see that TikTok, you know what, I'm just gonna stick it in here again so you have some reference, and I'll put in some pictures as well. But here's the TikTok. Okay, so as you can see, I was not having a great reaction to that wig. If you noticed at all, the pigtails were just kind of like flopping away from like the blonde, like tufts, I guess. Is tufts a good word for that? I think tufts is a good word for that. So I also took some pictures. I'll put them on screen. So this is the bangs. I'm looking at it on my phone. The bangs were my biggest issue with this wig. So obviously, if you did watch my last cosplay video about my shorts, like screen accuracy, I know I'm not going for it. However, I feel like this has to be like a huge error on the people who made this wig, because Harley does not have any hair dye other than like bleach in her bangs in Birds of Prey whatsoever. And it's obviously not a Suicide Squad wig because she's got long hair in Suicide Squad. Not only are they really awkwardly cut, but the color is totally wrong. So I had a couple ideas on how to address the lack of blonde in her bangs. Originally, I was going to make some wefts out of yarn and just sew in new bangs. And I gave a little, you'll see in the video coming up here, you'll see in a minute here, that just didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. But this wig, basically the plan is to go in and just cut and try and cut and texturize to give this wig some shape, especially in these pigtails here. So we addressed the bangs and how the bangs are totally wrong. So let's address the pigtails. So this is my pink pigtail here. You can see that it's just kind of like coming out of the blonde. It's not part of the pigtail. It's like its own thing. And with the blue one as well, same issue, just like a tuft of blonde and then like a tail of hair color. Then also in the bangs as well, we have like these weird like tails that like come down around my face. They're just like really long and awkward and don't need to be there. So we're gonna address that as well. But my main concern are the bangs and the pigtails matching. So my main idea, like I said, is to cut. If that doesn't work, I'd have to go in and make some wefts, make some short ones for the bangs and then make some longer ones to kind of just go over the pigtails and then kind of color them if need be. But obviously that's gonna take a lot of time. I've never done it before, so I would like to try and avoid doing that as much as possible. So, anyway, let's get on to day one of my Harley Quinn wig. So, day one coming at ya. Okay, hey guys, welcome to day one. So as you can see, I have my wig here. There's already been some blonde pulled out over that seam to see if that would work. And I also heat tested that strip of blue to see if I could use my iron, and I can, which is awesome. So as you can see, there is a lot of this awkward hair color and the pigtails stick out as well. So these are the things I would like to address. The number one problem being this giant seam and these awkward tufts and tail situation we've got going on here. So I guess the major plan for these, I'm going to just try and like texturize and cut these so that they're a little bit more spiky so I can stick them up better. I also want to say that I did try to make one of these wefts, like I said, out of the yarn, and it left me with this awkward edge that when I tried to put it up against the wig to see if I could sew it in, even if I could, I just don't know that I personally could make it look good. And the color match wasn't immaculate, so I'm gonna go with the heat styling. And then we're gonna paint the roots after all of this is done as well, because Harley does have grow out in Birds of Prey. And these tails have got to go because they're so awkward and long. Okay, day 1, let's go. I am going to start cutting these awkward ponytails so that we can hopefully get some more spike and shape. So let's get started on that. I've got my old beauty school shears here that I mostly just use for wig styling and on my eyelashes now. And I also have a back comb brush so I can give these pigtails some volume. And hopefully we can get some actual like shape here. You can kind of see the shape I'm trying to go for over here on the pink side. Okay, so I just kind of from here just started slide cutting chunks out of here. It's like, I have to say, going in on a wig, it's like a lot more brave because I know that nobody is like, other than me, gonna be disappointed with if something goes wrong. So like with that kind of confidence, I can just like go in and take these chunks and pieces, and I honestly feel like it was working pretty well. So I just like kept going with it because I was getting the result I wanted to get. So then I had to comb, you know, some of the extra hair out so that it wasn't just like sitting in there. And then I did back comb it a little bit to give it some volume. Then I'm piecing it out and looking to see where it needs to be cut some more. I honestly spent like an hour at least cutting each pigtail. So it's basically just a lot of cutting and brushing out and cutting and brushing out and reshaping just to kind of brush it out again and recut it. But you know, how else am I gonna see if I like it? So I'm finally starting to get the shape I want, just doing a little bit more slide cutting towards the top to get those piecier chunks up around the blonde tuft area. Then I'm going in and point cutting the blonde stuff as well to try and blend it in with the blue. So I was feeling mildly satisfied with the way that was taking shape, and I wanted to start messing with the bangs a little bit. So I grabbed the curling iron and started to try and shape these bangs out a little bit. This wig was pretty receptive to heat, so I got really lucky, honestly, because with how cheap this wig was, it could have just absolutely melted in my hand as soon as I put that curling iron on it. But it was pretty receptive, so at that point I knew for a fact I wasn't going to be using the wefts at all because I was going to see how much blonde I could get into the bangs. So I started kind of weaving some of the blonde out from the pigtails and just brushing it in to get a visual of how much blonde I could bring into the bangs. Because if I get a certain amount of blonde into the bangs, then I can take out some of the blue and the bangs won't be really, really thin. So I'm taking out the pigtail because, first of all, they're like these really ugly, awkward yellow rubber bands, and I have some clear ones that'll look nicer. I also just wanted to make the pigtails a little bit more uniform. but I also wanted to have a little bit more ease getting some of this extra like short bits out of the pigtails and seeing what is going to flow over that seam gracefully or what's going to try and push back into the pigtail and try and fight me. So basically I just kept brushing and weaving and brushing and seeing what would stay. So after all that brushing and trying to get as much blonde, I started to take my curling iron to smooth the new bangs over the really awkward seam to give it a little bit more of a realistic look and to get everything uniform and in place so that I can reshape the ponytail and continue to cut the bangs. Again, this is just a lot of me going over and over with the heat to make sure that I'm not keeping the heat on for too long, but to make sure it is getting exposed to enough heat so that it does hold its shape. Then we finally got it up into a nice smooth pigtail. So after I got it into the pigtail, we sprayed it down with some Redken Control Addict to keep everything nice in place. It's actually a pretty decent hairspray for a wig, or hair, if you like a really high hold. So then I took the wig off the mannequin head and started to cut these lower blue wefts off to get that extra hair color out of there. And we already made up for the lack of hair by bringing down more of that blonde. So let's just get rid of some of this color. It doesn't need to be there. Obviously, it's not all going to be taken away because I do need some of that fullness in the bangs still. But as you can see, after combing that out, the bangs look a lot more blonde than blue. We still have those awkward tails, but those will be addressed soon. So now we're going over with the curling iron again just to make sure everything is in place. I'll be doing that a lot. From this point, we can already see the wig is taking a pretty dramatic change just from the one side being texturized and having blonde added to the bangs. So now I'm going in and point cutting as much of the blue as I can out of the bangs, trying to go under the layer of blonde I just created and point cutting only the blue if I can. And now we're finally gonna cut this awkward tail off. Bye-bye. Nobody wants you. That part was awkwardly straight because that's where I tested the flat iron to see if it could handle heat. So now I'm just taking the flat iron and shaping the blonde into a more rounded bang shape. So after shaping and brushing and shaping, I've got that sprayed down and we are now going to do exactly the same thing on the pink side. So just like the blue side, I started off with my pigtail by point cutting and slide cutting to texturize it as much as possible to get that fullness and shape. And then I did the same thing with the bangs by pulling all the extra hair out, ironing it over the seam, and then cutting out those extra pink wefts so that we're left with mostly blonde. Then after doing that, I flat ironed everything into place as well. So after flat ironing everything into place, I finally began to point cut all these bangs and get rid of the awkward tail. Again, focusing on getting as much of the pink out and leaving as much blonde as possible. It's crazy to see the difference, again, I must say, between just from being able to cut and use heat styling, making this wig look even slightly acceptable. But that is pretty much where we ended up on day 1. Okay, so we're at the end of day 1. Clearly, the wefts were not working. I actually had a lot of success using heat styling on this wig, which actually really surprised me because, again, I paid $9.99 for it at Goodwill. Now, let me also just say, it's not like it was a used Goodwill wig. It was a new wig. There's just price points, right? There's price points. There's the $25 wig from Spirit that looks pretty screen accurate for the most part. And then, obviously, you have, like, mid-ranged Amazon wigs, which was what I had originally planned on buying, but then we had just gone to Goodwill and I was like, oh my gosh, they have a Harley Quinn wig. Even though the picture on the bag had the bangs pink and blue, it like just didn't occur to me until I got home and I was like, that doesn't look right when I put it on. So I was pretty surprised that this wig was actually pretty receptive to heat, which really made working on the bangs an absolute dream. So here's where we left off. I'll show you here, but I'm looking here. Here's where we left off at the end of day 1. As you can see, and you saw in the video as well, we have a lot more shaped those pigtails now, and we have a lot more blonde in our bangs. So the main thing that helped me, and you saw in the video, was that really skinny curling iron, because it just is like a hot bar, so I was able to get in and bend the hair over the seam, the really hard bang seam. So this is where we ended up on day 1. So let's jump into day 2 now. Okay, so day 2, my focus was on getting the bangs to look a little bit more screen accurate. So Harley has these baby bangs going on here, and that was something that we needed to address on this wig. So my main focus was cutting that little baby bang section and shaping the bangs to look as screen accurate as I could possibly get. I know I'm not super focused on screen accuracy, but I just wanted to see if I could cut them and shape them to look a little bit more like my reference picture. So this mostly just included a lot of point cutting and brushing and point cutting and brushing out, just like yesterday. Until eventually I got to a place where I liked it, so I started using heat to shape them into place in a way that sort of resembles my reference picture. Again, using my Control Addict 28 from Redken because I love how sticky and how much hold it has. And I'm just flat ironing and shaping and flat ironing and shaping. The entire process of styling this wig, I'm not gonna lie, is very repetitive. Now I'm focusing on getting some of these baby hairs along the back of her neck out, so I'm just using some heat styling on that, and I did cut them a little bit to shape as well. And now it is time to paint our grow out on. So I'm just taking my miniatures paint. Well, I'm taking my husband's miniature paint. I've used this to paint my Marshall wig from Animal Crossing before, so I figured I could just use it for this. And I did, and it worked pretty well. So this is pretty much just a montage of me painting roots. So once I got a little bit higher on the back as well, I started to add a little bit of like channeling in the roots to make it look like it was all the way through, as opposed to just kind of outside of like the ponytail sections. I know it doesn't look like super immaculate or anything, but it was my first time and I think it turned out decent enough. So I'm pretty proud of it. It is a little heavy in some spots, but it was my first time painting roots onto a wig, and it's like a wig that has a structured updo, so I did the best I could. Don't judge me too harshly. I'm sure with more practice, I will get better at this. But this was probably the most like relaxing part of this entire process, because I could just zen and zone out. Just like when I was painting the shorts. It's like, I just love painting. It's very relaxing. So I finally worked my way down towards the bangs and went ahead and painted the grow out in there. Those I did section in some places to give a little bit more depth, since they're a little bit more 3D and right in your face. Anyone who was in my face would kind of be able to see it a little bit more. And once that was all done, I sprayed everything in place. And boom, we have a totally different wig. So I let that dry and I will let you watch the outro now. Okay, so that was a long couple of days. Obviously I'm not like super duper experienced in wig styling. I have done like an Elsa wig. I did a Marshall from Animal Crossing wigs. Basically the same way that I colored the roots in this video is the same way I dyed the tips of Marshall's bangs for my Animal Crossing cosplay. I've mostly just done like braiding. I did a Jinx wig for my friend, Jinx from League of Legends, for my friend a long time ago. And I've done an Elsa wig for myself. I've also just, you know, the longer blonde wig that I've worn in some glam videos before I messed with the part and stuff. So it's not like I've never worked on a wig before, but I've never worked on a wig like this before, where I'm going in like, oh God, why? And I'm actually pretty proud of how this turned out. So she's all done drying now. Here she is. She smells like hairspray. But yes, this is my Harley wig, and I'm super freaking proud of this. Even if it's still not screen accurate, there's still some color in her bangs here, but I am really proud of the way this turned out. Clearly these are not as heavy around her face anymore. I tried to get as much blonde in those bangs as possible. And then also, here's like my reference picture as well, again, so you can see. My main focus for day 2, other than working on her roots, was to get the bangs to look a little bit more screen accurate, because she's got like this baby bang here and then longer bangs. So I really worked pretty hard to get this area to just be like that little baby bang. I'm really proud of this. Especially, like, oh my gosh, I'm just very proud of how the pigtails have turned out as well. They're much more shapely and like sprouty and cute. The grow out is a little bit dark and a little heavy, but I'm still pretty proud of it. I like that I got some like channeling in there to make it look like it was all the way through. It's the first time I've ever done grow out on a wig, so for the first time doing it, I'm pretty proud of myself. Yeah, if you actually want to see me in this wig, stick around for the rest of the month. I have a little bit more Harley Quinn content coming up for you and a full costume reveal on Halloween. So stick around till Halloween to see the whole thing. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and coming on this wig journey with me. I've never taken on a wig project quite like this before, and like I said, I'm really proud of the results here because the before and after just really, like, wow. Anyway, stay tuned for more Harley cosplay content. I think I have one more big video for this coming out and then the big reveal. I also have some more spooky content coming out for you. I also have some more glam content coming out for you. Stay tuned for Vlogtober. I'm super excited for the rest of this month with you guys. And thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good life. Unusually Horrid out. Okay, bye!